Welcome back. Now, at this point, we have all of these words floating around. And today, we're going to connect the dots between astral travel, quantum jumping, and reality hopping, right? And we're going to look at how that could easily line up with depersonalization and derealization, and how literal could all of this possibly be? Now, to recap, we have this amazing little dude. He's figured out how to dissociate and fragment enough to keep both scenarios going. And it's important to keep in mind that this isn't the first time or the only time. The abuse is systemic, and so are the consequences. And much like having tumors all over your body, they have growths all over their timeline, which is a huge energetic drain. Now, this little guy, he's mastered the ability to bend time by funneling all of his emotion, his anger, his fear, and encapsulated the infectious moment, much like a cyst on his timeline, which removes it from his conscious reality, creating what we today call dissociative amnesia. Now, it's important to remember that energetically he is running. I had a client from Iran, and she grew up with a pretty tumultuous family in a very tumultuous country. The energy was high in every direction. And we had done a considerable amount of work, and we were to the point of her being released. And she said, I'm really ready to head out on my own, but I do have this image that keeps coming pretty persistently into my head. And she's like, I need to go to the dentist, and I'm terrified. Terrified. I can't sleep. I can't make myself make the appointment. My body just wants to run away. So instantly I was like, close your eyes, let's go. And when we were peering into that moment, what we saw was that her body was being restrained by her mother and the dentist who was trying to give her a shot. The mom was holding her face. The dentist was trying to hold her arms down. She was batting away. She wanted out of that chair. And the adult woman was just rigid with fear. When I looked around and I was like, look over by the door. And she saw a version of the child over by the door, desperately trying with her astral form to get the door open. And it was impossible, right? So we guided her over to kneel down in front of the child and um, explain to her, right, that what needed to be done that day. And she consoled her, she held her, and she explained to her why the dentist needed to give her the shot and what sort of work he was going to do in her mouth and the consequences of the work not being done. And the child relaxed, and we were able to guide her back into the body. And at the same time, we were apologizing to her for that not having happened and her just being thrown into the situation. So after guiding her back into her body stopped fighting, and the adults released the restraints, and she was able to get her work done, right? And as the scene calmed, we were able to then while mom was paying, guide her out of the office and integrate her back into the Nazine of today. Now, on coming back, she claimed that although going to the dentist doesn't sound fun, her body isn't wanting to run away, right? This is how literal the child mind works, right? Alternate timeline theory means that within one universe, time is played out in a multitude of different ways, right? We're playing a game of choices. Life does not just happen, right? We're making choices every step of the way in response to the challenges that are put around us. You know, in every tradition, they talk about the game of life. The Akashic records or the Holo records is documentation of each round of this huge, elaborate game of growth and expansion, right? Culminating in enlightenment, in being able to fit through the eye of the needle. Now, as far as this alternate timeline, have you ever had like the experience where you walked out of the room and back in with the feeling that things were slightly different? Say your keys were not where you knew you left them and you found them instead in the pocket of a jacket you pulled out of the closet? Right? I think we have all had similar experiences. Now, I've read that we get 4 tendril timelines. Now, I like to think of these little timelines like the little white hair-like roots that offshoot from a larger, more substantial root on a plant, right? Back to that tree. It might have potential, right, with the right focus and energy, but the main root's getting a lot of the juice first, right? So to shift gears, it takes a lot of force and determination. To hop requires a lot of energy. Either way, to create a trajectory or create a new route is a moment by moment choice, right? We can always go back to what was, right? It's like driving your car to your old job by habit and realizing that you had changed jobs 8 weeks ago. It is very easy to go back to what was. Now, the thing is this kid feels very confused because when we hop realities like that, things are similar but different. It's like you're in the wrong play with the wrong script, right? He can't trust its memory because it's no good here. Everybody's always challenging his events or his account of events, right? Because they happened just differently. He has to live completely in the moment and respond to what's showing up around him, because the moment he relaxes or gets lax, he gets sideswiped by unforeseeable events. Think about that. That hypervigilance it takes to be aware enough to walk around as if you're in a whole new country and you don't know the language. I've done that, so it's interesting, right? I've done that on purpose, immersed myself in a country where I didn't know the language to see what it would take to assimilate in that environment. Now, back to this kid. What's required to actually hop to another reality, right? I mean, you're going to have to be able to fly. A lot of people, when they say that they're astral traveling, they do feel like they're flying. They can see time moving below them, scenarios flashing really fast, right? He's going to have to be able to maneuver through time and space to reality hop. Now, this is the definition of astral travel. When a human can separate their astral body from their physical body and travel through time and throughout the universe. I mean, come on, guys. What if it is truly that simple? These amazing beings are doing what people spend years learning, and they're doing it with just a thought. If they're doing it in a reactionary way, that means that they can do it on purpose. If we can take reaction and move it into action. Now, quantum jumping is even a step further. It's an abrupt transition of a quantum system, an atom, a molecule, an atomic nucleus, from one quantum state to another, or from one energy level to another. Well, let's be serious. If a molecule is a quantum system, don't you think we humans are expansive quantum systems? And if a molecule can shift from one quantum state to another, so can we, with a thought, right? With a thought, right? If it takes a long time to get there, I know they're projecting or they're traveling. If they're there in an instant, they're quantum jumping. Now, what makes it different? In my book, how do I test that out? Whether they can touch, interact, can they turn the doorknob? Can they feel the doorknob in their hand? Right? Can they reach down and feel the grass? Right? Because if they can't feel it and they can't interact with it, they are projecting in versus jumping in. That's your distinction there. Derealization. Well, it stands to reason that very quickly nothing around you would feel real to you. It would also stand to reason that you'd feel disconnected, isolated, alone, even in a crowd, right? Even in a crowded room full of people that claim to be your family, right? And you're clearly aware. Like, you're very clearly aware that nothing feels right. I can remember being able to actually see people touch me, but I couldn't feel them touch me physically, right? I was very aware. Now, depersonalization can consist of a detachment within the self or a detached observer of oneself. One may feel that they've changed and that the world's become vague and dreamlike, like being on the outside looking in. This is interesting in that a detachment within oneself can literally point to the fragmentation. Detaching from oneself can literally point to an out of body experience, right? Now we've changed. We know way too much to come back here and try to fit in with the limited 3D reality, right? An out of body experience on all levels opens the door to new and amazing experiences and expansive thoughts and expansive viewpoints. And the limitation of the 3D world falls away until you're immersed right back down in it, right? And nothing that you knew there is changing here at the moment. So, yeah, nothing feels real. It's like you're inserted in a horror movie and all the words are backwards, all the actions are backwards. What's deemed as kindness is mean, and what's deemed as love hurts, and what's deemed as family is vipers, and That's your reality. And I mean, if you're catapulted out of your body, if you're not in your body, then you're literally on the outside looking in, right? Could this be that simple, guys? Could it be just that simple? Now, building integrity is a very literal process. We can't expect a consistent connection in if our systems look like this, all frayed and fragmented, right? And I see most everything as circuitry, and if we compare God or that force of energy out there and we call it electricity, the electricity is benevolent. It can create great illumination or it can create fires and kill you, depending on the quality of the connection, right? So let's say you're a lamp and the it's been through a lot and it's brought light to many, many, many people. And it's been beaten up, it's been disrespected, and it's not been cared for properly. And now the cord is really worn and frayed. The rubber casing is pulled away, and the bundle of little tiny copper wires that comprise everything necessary to make that connection is damaged, right? And sometimes in numerous different places, right? And these little wires are spinning out away from that central bundle, and they're twisted and they're knotted and they're going in every direction. The connection is going to soon become very iffy and dangerous and unreliable and possibly explosive and possibly a fire hazard, right? Can the cord be repaired? Absolutely. Can the connection be restored? Absolutely. Is it dangerous in the meantime? Yes, to everyone that we engage with. When we feel those sparky people, they're arcing out, their energies are arcing out. It's a literal, um, it's a literal faulty connection. Is it the electricity's fault if a fire is a result of the cord being out of integrity? Absolutely not. Now, I really love Jesus's very literal depictions of these energetic concepts. And I must say, having grown up Catholic, my studies with Deepak Chopra opened doors to a whole new way of viewing his teachings. I would witness quantum physicists, astrophysicists stand on that stage and talk for hours about, these one liner concepts, right? Very literal, picture making concepts. If you don't have a picture, the words don't mean anything, right? So if you're trying to thread a needle and you have a piece of thread that is all frayed, it's impossible. What do? We're sitting there trying to create integrity within that fiber so that it can fit through the eye of that needle. Spirit is simple and spirit is childlike, right? This is these folks. They have been standing on the threshold, knowing that they need to fit through the eye of that needle to fulfill their purpose, their reason for being here, and they can't figure out how to fit. They just can't figure out how to fit, right? They need integrity, and it's that simple and that literal, right? The power and the wonder these folks are meant to bring to the world is tangled up in time. way back in the beginning, before I understood any of this, I would declare that I'm here on this planet to untangle people. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are untangling time so that these magical superhero beings can do what they came here to do. So much of their magic and so much of their energy is necessary to keep all of these fragments and these loops and the entanglement, to keep it all going, that they're standing there with no energy left for their purpose, right? Now, much like a savant, it's necessary for a savant, who plays amazing music, to learn how to read music, to be able to write down the notes that are playing in their head. Those are the savants. And these folks want nothing more than just to be normal. And what is normal? Normal is nothing but average or below. These are not average folks. These are superheroes, the superheroes of our time, the great magicians, the great prophets. And they're going unseen and unheard, because throughout time they have been running. And what do we see when we're running? Nothing but where we're landing our feet. Right? And when we're running, we could be running the same exact circle without ever recognizing what we're passing, or that we're repeating time over and over and over again. So it's your job, and it's my job, to release these amazing beings back out into the world, free of this entanglement, free of the idea of crazy, and start creating the actions that they came here to create, right? And we're getting ready to talk about just how we're going to help them do that by utilizing what they're doing very naturally.